Good morning. About a year ago, we recorded a couple of videos where we drove our Mini Electric from Kent up to Scotland. We're about to repeat that this weekend, so we thought we'd make another video. One of the things that we want to explore is how the increase in the number of battery electronic vehicles on the road has impacted the availability of public charging stations. It'll be interesting to see whether now that there are more of those cars, we'll have to queue when we stop to charge. The other thing that makes this different from when we did it last year is that we're going to have a go at driving from Kent to the Scottish borders in a day. Last year we stayed overnight on the way up in Pontefract, but we're going to see if we can do it. Well, I hope we can do it all in one day because we've got a hotel booked for tonight. It's about 360 miles from where we live to Schloss Roxburghe, just outside of Kelso. And Google Maps currently thinks that without any stops, it's going to take us about 7 hours. Now, if we were driving a diesel car, thinking about human needs, I reckon that would therefore take us about 9 hours because we want to stop for coffee, we want to stop for lunch, we want to stop to stretch our legs. But obviously we've also got that additional charging time that we need to take account for. So it's currently about 7:45 as we're looking to leave. We've got dinner booked tonight for 7 p.m. So we've got 11 hours and 15 minutes. I'm feeling relatively confident that we should make it, but let's see how we get on.
So we're an hour into the journey. As you can see, it's typical British motorways crawling along, but we've done 42 miles in that first hour and averaging 4.4 miles per kilowatt hour and about 40 miles an hour. So it was very sticky going through the Dartford River crossing as always at 8 a.m. But we managed to make up a little bit of time. It was fairly smooth up until now. We're just north of Stansted Airport on the M11. We think it's probably lost us about 3/4 of an hour, this traffic jam here, but fingers crossed we can make up a little bit of time as we go. So the original plan was to head for Peterborough services where there's an Ionity charger. That would have been nice and handy, but with this delay we may well end up stopping slightly earlier at Cambridge.
Right, we're now 2 hours in and we've done 50.5 miles. Unfortunately, that's 50.5 miles in total, not 50.5 miles in the last hour. So we've done about maybe 8 miles in the last hour. But we've just gone past the problem. In fact, we're going past it now. So hopefully that means things are going to speed up a bit. And we're going to make it to Peterborough services before 11 o'clock, which I hope so. I could really do with a coffee. Okay, it's 10:41 and we have made it to Peterborough services. So did 97.6 miles at 4.4 miles per kilowatt hour. There was a Ionity charger free when we got here. It looks like I think there was just the one free, so we were quite lucky there. The other 5 look like they're all being used. So we're just setting up the charge at the moment. We'll get that going, and then there's a Costa coffee here. We'll head in and find a drink while the car charges.
So part 1 successfully negotiated, if a bit longer than anticipated. Closer to 3 hours than 2, but never mind. We're charging up on the Ionity, using a little bit of legacy bonnet credit built up over the past 18 months of ownership. So having a Costa, thinking about the next bit, which is a slightly shorter hop, 66 miles we think, taking us to Retford. So it takes us about an hour and a quarter we think, and we'll do another update once we get there.
So we ended up stopped for about 35 minutes at Peterborough services, put 20 kilowatts into the car and pulled out with 86%, and that was the point at which we were ready to go, if that makes sense. So Colin had finished his coffee, he's driving, so I've brought the rest of mine with me, and so good time to stop charging and head on to Retford. Okay, we've done 164 miles in total now. We've got 34% of the battery left, and we found the EV point in Retford. So there's a little opposite, and then there's King Edward Services, so we should be able to, I think, grab some lunch there once we've got the car charging.
So leaving Retford, having used EV point charging successfully, 17 kilowatts added, so it's boosted us back up to about 86%. And heading now for North Allerton. They have an Osprey charge point there, which we'll take advantage of, hopefully.
So we've made it to North Allerton. It's 2:52. Not quite sure where we are mileage wise because I forgot to check before we turned the car off, but we had about 23% left. So we're in the car park of the Willowbeck. It's just starting to rain, so we're going to go find the loo while the car charges, and then we'll be on our way again, heading up to somewhere just north of Newcastle.
Right, well we've been touring around Pontyland for a little while, trying to find a suitable charger. The journey through Newcastle was very, very sticky. Traffic was pretty awful, weather was horrendous. I think it was not a great time to be heading around there, sort of 4:30ish, rush hour starting. So it took about 90 minutes to get us here from that Osprey charger. And this charger has been a little bit temperamental. Kind of thought it was on Electroverse, it's showing on the Electroverse app, but it really doesn't like the card, the RFID card, and just generally threw it out. So we registered quickly, got the app as suggested, and that seems alright. So we're charging away, a little bit expensive, 60 pence plus a kilowatt hour, but you know, it is what it is at the moment. We've just got the last little section to do, which is about another sort of 60 miles up to just south of Kelso.
Well, the good news is that we made it to Schloss Roxburghe. I may not have pronounced that right. It's actually the following morning because we were quite tired when we arrived. It was a smooth run through from Pontyland to the hotel, but we didn't actually get here until about 6:45. So we made it for 7. We made it for our dinner reservation, but that does mean that it did take 10 hours and 50 minutes in total to drive up from Kent. Not aided by the traffic jam on the M11 and the 2 on the A1. But the very good news was when we got here, chargers. Now, we had spoken to the hotel in advance and they had told us that they had a couple in the car park, main car park, and also some in the golf club car park. But we got here, both chargers were free. One free in both senses of the words, as in nobody was parked at them and no price to pay. This one, both sides of it are working. That one side is working, which is the side that we plugged into last night, and they actually charge at a rate of 11 kilowatt hours as well. So we left them on charge overnight, checked with the hotel, they said yeah, it's fine, no one else is going to need all of them. So left them on overnight, just unplug here in this morning before we head off, but we know that when we get back later we can top them up to 100% before we leave, maybe then move them off charge, so if somebody does need it tonight they've got that ability. So we'll let you know what we would have done differently next time in the next little bit. So the question is, now that we've made it to the scenic Scottish borders and we've had a chance to relax, would you do it again? Kent to Scotland in a mini electric in one day?
Yes, I would do it again. Even though the Mini has quite a reduced range, or short range, only about 130 miles on a full charge, we still only needed, I think, 4 stops, so it was quite manageable. Sharing the driving was important, though, I think. It would have been very difficult for one person to have done that drive. So is there anything that you would have done differently?
I think I'd have probably gone a different route in hindsight. So we'd picked to stop at Retford and North Allerton because the charging was cheaper, but after we had that long hold up on the M11 at the start, I think I might have decided to pay the extra amount and stopped at the GridServe chargers actually up the A1. So I think where we did divert off of the main route, it actually added about 40 minutes to the journey, which when we then had all the hold-ups on top of everything actually made quite a significant difference. So I think that's the one thing that I probably would have done differently.
And I think we might have been maybe slightly fortunate in the availability of chargers when we were planning our stop or pulling off the motorway. We were able to plug in straight away and get going with what we needed to do. So that was very useful. Having to queue somewhere might have been a bit of a pain, and most of the service areas were very busy. A lot of chargers in use too. But again, we were able to get the charge that we needed and move on as we wanted to. I think the style of driving is also quite is an important thing to mention. One pedal driving with regen braking is a lot less physically intense than driving a manual, changing gears. That can give you a bit of fatigue, but driving an EV is a fairly relaxing experience.
So that was our trip from Kent to Scotland. Hope you enjoyed watching it. If you did, please do give it a like and consider subscribing. We've got another Disney video to put up next week, and then after that we'll have a look round our room at Schloss Roxburghe.